3 days. That's how long it takes to ride from the capital to the eastern ruin belt. 3 days of silence. 3 days of solitude. I left Sebastian with clear orders. Maintain the illusion. To the world, Aric Valorian is dead, killed by assassins. To the staff, I am recovering in isolation. This lie buys me time to find the answers I need. My horse, a black mare I named Shadow, snorted nervously as we crossed the tree line. She could feel it too. The air here was different. It wasn't just cold, it was stale, like the inside of a tomb that hasn't been opened in centuries. I patted her neck, trying to calm her, but my eyes were scanning the horizon. According to the ancient texts I deciphered, this wasn't just a ruin, it was a facility, a research outpost from the pre-collapse era. They built automates here, machines of war that didn't require food, sleep, or mana. If I can find a working core, or even a schematic, I can build my own army. I won't need to rely on politics or mercenaries. I will have cold, hard steel obeying my commands. And perhaps, buried in their databanks, is the calculation for a dimensional bridge back to Earth. We reached the edge of a massive cliff. I pulled the reins. "Easy, girl," I whispered. Below us, the valley opened up like a wound in the earth. And there it was, the ruin. It was colossal, a fortress of gray stone and twisted iron, half swallowed by the vegetation. Vines as thick as pythons choked the towers. Green mist drifted through the shattered archways. I dismounted and tied Shadow to a dead tree. "Wait here," I told her. "If anything approaches, run." I walked to the edge of the cliff. I needed data. I reached up and tapped the metal collar around my neck. The mechanism hummed. Click, hiss. The Aegis helmet deployed instantly. Liquid metal and nanotech plates slid up from the collar, encasing my head in a sleek black visor. The world turned into a stream of digital information. System online. Battery 85%. Scanning topography. The HUD, heads-up display, highlighted the ruin in red wireframe. "Thermal signature," I commanded. The view shifted. I was looking for heat. I was looking for life. The ruins should be empty, but the scanner picked up movement. Hundreds of small, erratic heat signatures moving in the courtyard below. Too small for humans, too organized for wolves. I zoomed in. They were humanoid, short, hunched, carrying crude weapons. Target ID, Goblin. Threat level, low, individual. High, swarm. "Goblins," I muttered, retracting the helmet. The metal plate slid back into my collar, revealing my face to the cool air. Goblins were the rats of this world. Individually, they were weak. A child with a stick could fight one off, but they never came alone. Where there is one goblin, there are 50. And if they have taken over the facility, they might have destroyed the technology I came to save. I checked my equipment. The equalizer on my right hip, fully loaded. 6 spare mana crystal cartridges in my belt pouches. A short combat knife on my left hip, and the Aegis suit hidden beneath my heavy coat, humming silently against my skin. Scavengers. I spat the word out with disgust. They are desecrating a monument of science. I began the descent down the narrow rocky path leading to the ruin's entrance. The wind howled through the canyon, carrying the smell of rot and unwashed bodies. As I got closer, I saw the signs of their occupation. Crude totems made of bone and scrap metal, graffiti smeared in mud and blood on the pristine ancient walls. They had turned a laboratory into a nest. I stopped by a large stone pillar. Something caught my eye. It was a piece of metal, rusted and bent, used as a part of a goblin barricade. I wiped the dirt off it. It was a robot arm, a hydraulic piston from an ancient automate. My engineer's heart broke a little. They were using advanced technology as scrap metal to build fences. Ignorance, I whispered, gripping the handle of my gun. It is the greatest enemy of progress. A twig snapped behind me. I didn't turn around immediately. I listened. The breathing was raspy, wet. The smell of sour milk hit my nose. A scout. I turned slowly. Standing 5 meters away was a goblin. It was ugly, green skin covered with warts, wearing a loincloth made of rags. It held a jagged, rusty dagger. It looked at me, blinking its yellow eyes, surprised to see a human this deep in the Badlands. It opened its mouth to scream, to alert the horde. "No," I said. In one fluid motion, I drew the equalizer. I didn't fire. A gunshot would wake the whole valley. Instead, I surged forward, the Aegis suit amplifying my leg muscles. I covered the 5 meters in a blur. I struck him with the heavy pistol barrel right across the temple, a kinetic strike powered by hydraulics. Crack. The goblin crumpled to the ground, unconscious before he hit the dirt. I stood over him, breathing steadily. The silence remained unbroken. Step 1. Infiltration. But as I looked past the unconscious scout toward the dark, gaping maw of the ruin entrance, I realized the heat signatures on my scanner were moving. They were converging. They knew something was here. Step 2, I sighed, checking the safety on my gun. The darkness of the ruin wasn't empty. It was alive. It breathed with the rasping, wet sound of 1,000 lungs. It smelled of rust, mold, and dried blood. I walked into the central atrium. It was a massive, cathedral-like space, supported by iron pillars that stretched up into the gloom. In the center, a large hole in the ceiling let in a shaft of pale, gray light. I stopped in the middle of that light. I made myself a target. "Come out," I whispered. "I know you're there." For a second, nothing happened. Then, a single stone fell from the upper balcony. Clack. And then, the screaming started. It came from everywhere, from the shadows, from the pillars, from the ceiling. A tide of green skin and rusty metal poured into the light. Goblins, hundreds of them. They didn't attack immediately. They circled. They chattered. They banged their weapons against their shields, shards of old metal and wood. My helmet's HUD lit up like a Christmas tree. Warning, multiple hostiles detected. Count, 150 plus. 150 against 1. In a fair fight, I lose. Good thing I don't fight fair, I muttered. A goblin, larger than the others, a sergeant maybe, screeched and pointed a jagged sword at me. The wave crashed. 3 of them lunged at my legs, trying to drag me down. I didn't waste a bullet. I activated the Aegis overdrive. My leg muscles, reinforced by the suit's servos, kicked out with the force of a hydraulic press. I caught the first goblin in the chest. There was a sickening crunch of ribs, and he flew backward into his friends like a bowling ball. I spun, my coat flaring out. I grabbed the second goblin by the neck and threw him into the third. Too slow, I analyzed. Inefficient. I drew the equalizer. I didn't aim for individuals. I aimed for clusters. Boom. The sound of the Maniloc pistol in the enclosed space was deafening. It wasn't a bang. It was a thunderclap. The blue beam of kinetic energy hit the flagstone in the middle of the charging group. The impact shattered the flagstones. Shrapnel and shockwaves tore through the front line. 6 goblins were thrown into the air, their rag armor useless against pure force. The horde froze. They had never seen magic like this. No chanting, no glowing circles, just thunder and death. Fear, I noted, a useful variable. I walked forward, firing rhythmically. Boom, boom, boom. Each shot was a kill, or a multi-kill. I was an engineer clearing an obstruction. But they were adapting. The sergeant screeched again, and the goblins split up. Archers appeared on the balcony. Arrows rained down. I raised my left arm. The Aegis Vombrace deployed a small, hard-light kinetic shield, a prototype feature I had barely tested. Ping, ping, ping. The arrows bounced off the shimmering blue hexagon that appeared over my forearm.
battery, 78%, shield drain, high. I can't tank this forever. I need to move. I broke into a run, not away from them, but through them. I became a battering ram. A goblin jumped on my back, stabbing at my neck. The high collar of the coat protected me, but the weight was annoying. I slammed my back into a stone pillar, crushing the creature. I reached the stairs leading to the upper level. This was the choke point. I turned and fired the last shot in the crystal. Click. Empty. Reloading, I shouted to no one, my voice amplified by the helmet speakers to sound demonic. I ejected the spent crystal. It smoked as it hit the stairs. I grabbed a fresh blue cartridge from my belt and slammed it home. Ka-chunk. Hum. The gun sang with power again. But the archers were the problem. They had the high ground. I looked up. The balcony was supported by rusted iron chains. Physics, I smiled behind my visor. I didn't shoot the goblins. I aimed at the anchor point of the chain, the weakest link. I fired. The blue beam severed the rusted metal instantly. The chain snapped like a whip crack. The entire section of the balcony collapsed. 10 goblin archers screamed as they fell 20 meters to the stone floor below. The debris crushed another group on the ground. Dust and silence filled the hall for a heartbeat. The remaining goblins looked at the destruction. They looked at me, standing on the stairs, guns smoking, eyes glowing blue in the dark. They hesitated. But then a roar shook the facility, a roar that wasn't a goblin. From the deep darkness at the far end of the hall, heavy steps approached. Thud, thud, thud. The goblins parted, bowing their heads in fear. My scanner picked up a massive heat signature. Warning, elite hostile detected. Class, champion. Finally, I said, ejecting the half-used crystal and loading a fresh one, my last full one. I stood at the top of the stairs, looking down at the carnage I had created. I was bruised. My battery was draining. I had used half my ammo, but I was alive, and the architect was just getting warmed up. Send him in, I challenged the darkness. I have a bullet with his name on it.